What if Goldilocks got her wish? What if our favorite procurer of porridge, our favorite gal with grizzly guardians, our favorite delinquent with al dente hair, was the one to reach the star and receive her heart's desire? How would her image of a real family change existence as we know it? What would become of the bears who poured their honey-filled hearts out to her? And what would she do when she realizes that things aren't as just right as she hoped they'd be? Well, you guys voted, and I'm so glad you did. I've been wanting to talk about Goldi and the bears for freaking ever. So let's send this quartet on their own private family outing to see what obstacles they'd face, what lessons they'd learn, and what strange things little orphan Blondie would do to the world if she was steadfast in her ultimate goal. My name is Dr. Box, and I shall be your guide through this plane of existence in the Animation Multiverse. Can I have Fruit Loops instead? So before we send our precious posse on the path to stardom, we first have to ensure that they're the only ones that escape Jack's place with the map. And if you saw my original Puss video, which I recommend you do if you want context, I set up a scenario that has the potential for any of our characters to walk away with the goods and not be followed. So if you don't mind, we're just gonna use that again. Okay, so long story short, Jack barricades the door to his trophy room, preventing Kitty and Puss from escaping on the magic carpet. The bears knock the potion shelf off of themselves, a massive tussle for the map ensues, magical artifacts smash and crash and fly everywhere, leaving everyone magically incapacitated except for one. Or in this case, 4. Goldi and the bears give a fond family farewell to their foolish fallen foes, bust through the doors of the pie factory with their grizzly strength, and thanks to the power of bear versus horse genetics, Goldi's guardians easily outrun their pursuers while she takes care of any opposing fire from the archers. Heck, maybe she even knocks over some crates or barrels or food stands along the streets to stall them even further. They manage to escape with the map in tow, celebrate with a big old family bear hug, read the quote from the map which states that the star is found in the dark forest, and after a bit of trekking, they reach their destination and properly begin their quest for the wish. Now once again in my original Puss video, I gave a big explanation for how I think the wishing star map functions. Basically I said it was a twofold guide which not only shows the path to reach the wishing star itself, but also sends you on a personalized 3-step journey of introspection that may make you reconsider what you actually need. Is a reality warping cosmic request really necessary to be happy, or do you just need to change a few things about your current lifestyle or point of view to fix your problem? 9 times out of 10 it's the latter, and Goldi's wish is no exception. All she wants is a proper family, as defined by the one she used to fantasize about in her favorite book of fairy tales. And I imagine that the star would notice this mindset from Goldi and do everything it can to convince her that chasing her idealized concept of family will only lead to tragedy. Instead, to get what she wants, she just has to realize the validity and genuineness of the family she already has. Help her get that fantasy book out of her face and focus on what's right in front of her. Change her definition of what a real family is. And here's how I think it would happen. The first 2 stops on Goldi's journey weren't actually shown in the movie, which means we can get a little creative here. So let's begin at a place I call Perilous Plume Peak. Goldi and the bears first happen upon a massive valley of black, ashy, unstable looking ground that stretches on and on. At first they're all confused since the map clearly shows some kind of mountain, and there isn't even a hill to be seen for miles. First leg of the journey and this map's already fibbing to us. Oh well, on we go. But the second that baby steps onto the ashy plains, the ground immediately gives way and reveals a bottomless looking black chasm below. If any of them fall in there, there's no way they're coming back. Goldi takes some initiative and starts poking the ground with her stick, and then stepping on it with her feet. She notices that some parts of the ground collapse when stepped on or touched, while others are completely stable. She tries jumping and stomping and even letting Papa stand on it, and they're completely fine. So being the smallest and most nimble of the group, she decides to scout ahead, finding all the safe places to stand on and drawing a line with her stick for the bears to follow once she's done. However, once Goldi makes it to the middle of the valley, a massive rocky mountain juts right out of the ground, trapping Goldi at the top and the bears at the bottom. And if that wasn't bad enough, the mountain emits a pyroclastic flow of sorts that completely coats it in a thick gray smoke. Luckily, it doesn't burn the bears within an inch of their life like the real thing would, it just makes it hard to breathe and nearly impossible to see. But vision be damned, this doesn't deter the bears one bit, as they immediately start climbing the mountain to rescue their girl. As they continue to climb, they start facing a common obstacle for any mountaineer:
Rocks!
Luckily, Papa takes up the helm at this point, pushing aside and even smashing any oncoming boulders that try to flatten the bears as they go. However, once they get closer to the top, the rocks on the mountainside start to do some interesting things. They actually start linking together and taking the shape of various creatures, like snakes and wolves and even people. This catches the bears off guard and they almost get overwhelmed. But then Papa notices some very subtle details about these rock monsters. These aren't just any old stock creatures. These are recreations of the various threats that he saved Goldi from when she was growing up. There's a snake with a missing fang and an eye, like the one he scared off before Goldi could be poisoned in the woods once. A troll with a giant tree-shaped mark on his chest, who tried to eat Goldi as an appetizer before him and the family stepped in. A group of bandits with eye patches and hook hands. They held Goldi hostage during one of their crime missions and he had to give them what for. Papa gets flashbacks to all of those times he saved his daughter, meaning we'd get to see them as well, and this gives him the adrenaline boost he needs to press on and do it one more time. He lets out a fearsome grizzly roar and starts destroying these creatures with primal rage. Smash, smash, smash! The rocks go flying until not a pebble stands in their way. He's gonna do everything he can to reach the top. For his daughter! For Goldi! Meanwhile, at the top of the mountain, Goldi herself isn't doing so hot. The smoke emanating from the mountain is the thickest at the peak. It's so bad that it causes Goldi to start choking and even losing consciousness. She tries to cry out for the bears to help her, and she does hear a voice in response, but not the one that she was expecting. Instead, she hears the wispy, eerie sound of her own voice quoting the words of a story to her. The same story she would read over and over again from that book of fairy tales she loved so much as a kid. She doesn't recognize it at first since the words are a little distorted, plus it's been years since she's read the book, but it does feel vaguely familiar. The further she drifts from consciousness, the more clear the words become, to the point where it almost feels like the voice is whispering right in her ear as she's about to black out. Eventually the bears make it to the top, but there's still one last threat to take care of. A towering monster looking exactly like their daughter, made of stone, lava, and volcanic glass. Her features piercing through the thick smoke from the glow of all the molten rock. The one, the only, Goldilocks. I'll see myself out. At first the bears prepare for a fight, but the golem doesn't even try to attack them or step on them or anything. It mostly just pushes them away and tries to coax them back down the mountain. Almost like a just leave me alone kind of gesture. Heck, it doesn't even act that angry or threatening. They try some different approaches like talking to it or sneaking by it, but it just won't budge. Eventually, Papa notices a detail about this monster too, a stream of magma tears running down its face. And he figures that if this creature is anything like the real Goldi, there's only one cure for the waterworks. He lunges at the creature's leg, latches himself onto it, puts his claws away, and tickles it. The golem starts laughing uncontrollably as it falls to the ground and Papa jumps off. He walks up to the face of the golem, gently puts his paw on its cheek, and starts talking in his more calm voice like he did at Mama Luna's house.
Don't worry, sweetheart. You're gonna be alright. I know sometimes you want to be alone and you just gotta let out all your tears. But remember that your mom, your brother, and I are always gonna be looking out for you, no matter what it takes.
And with that said, the creature closes its eyes, the magma within its veins cools, and it just lays there on the ground to rest. Mama gives Papa a kiss on the cheek for being so clever, using Goldi's secret ticklish spots like that. All that's left is to find out where Goldi is on this massive mountaintop. And lucky for the trio, the nose never lies. Baby knows Goldi's scent better than anything, and even with all the smoke in the air causing some choking and coughing here and there, he's able to pick up the bass notes of her musk and track her down in the massive cloud. The family manage to wake her up, they all embrace, the smoke finally clears completely, and she questions the body of the fallen golem, hearing that her family just took down a bunch of creatures just like that, all to save her. And after that, the trek down the opposite side of the mountain is smooth sailing. So the themes here should be self-explanatory. On Goldi's end, we have her being choked out by the smoke-coddling words of her once favorite fairy tale, the main inspiration for her definition of a proper family. And the fact that these words are literally siphoning the life-giving oxygen out of her is meant to show that if she continues to focus on the examples set by this book and only define a family based on the superficial definition she got from it, she's gonna end up wasting her life chasing a dream that's already come true, isolating herself from the people that truly care about her and never fully receiving the happiness she could have had if she embraced them, following a warped perception of reality and paying the price for it. And of course with the bears, we get to see them exercise one of the main traits that any true family always exhibits. A family protects and defends, not just from threats like dangerous creatures or villainous people, but also from internal stuff like self-doubt, dark thoughts, and sad feelings. The final obstacle is literally overcome by Papa knowing the small intricate ways to make his girl smile, and reminding her that despite hardships, she never has to face things alone. A pretty intense first challenge if I do say so myself. The next stop on our journey is a spot known as Receiver's River, inspired by this little river-looking area on Goldi's map that was never properly named in the movie. At first it just seems like an innocent little stream with plenty of fresh fish jumping about. Papa and Baby are especially excited about this since they haven't been to a salmon run in ages. And hey, it's called Receiver's River, so clearly the river wants them to receive a bite or two, right? But Goldi tells them no bites, we're not here to eat. She doesn't want to take any chances, especially after the first stop. Let's just cross the river quickly and get on with the trip. The boys do eventually agree, even though they are really hungry, but as soon as Pop and Baby jump into the river to swim Goldi across, things immediately start to change. The river begins freezing over almost instantly. The rushing stream becomes a thick, stagnant sheet of ice. Pop and Baby get encased in the ice, and Mama quickly pulls Goldi away from the river so it doesn't happen to her. Snowy winds start swirling all around, practically covering the whole area in a sea of white. And before Goldi and Mama can properly process what's going on, a wind sweeps Goldi out of Mama's hands and carries her into the sky. As Goldi floats there suspended in midair, unable to even see the ground because of all the rushing snow, two transparent ghostly figures emerge from the chaos. One of a man and one of a woman. And this couple just so happened to take the exact same form as the mother and father from her little fairy tale story. Again, they seem vaguely familiar to Goldi, but they're just distorted and faded enough in her memory that she can't put two and two together quite yet. Anyway, they each reach out to touch a side of her face, and before she knows it, everything goes from white to black. When she eventually wakes up, everything is still black. She knows she's awake, she's alive and breathing, but she can't see a thing. She has been completely blinded. Snow-blinded, if you will. As we pan out, we see that Goldi has been trapped in this gigantic, transparent ice maze resting above the now frozen river. The ice is clear enough that it can be easily seen through, but it's basically hard as steel and can't be broken, as we see when Mama repeatedly tries to smash the walls down with her brute strength. The only way into the maze is through the exit, but every time Mama tries to enter the maze, another slab of ice immediately jumps in front of her like a sliding door to cut her off. There is no way for her to physically save Goldi. However, once Goldi wakes up and the two realize they can still communicate, with their voices echoing off the walls of the maze, this gives Mama an idea. She can still see Goldi, she just can't reach her, so she is gonna guide her. The first thing she does is calm down Goldi's little panic attack by singing a lullaby she used to sing for Goldi when she was little. And honestly, a scene where Goldi just takes a breather in a huge, cool maze of ice, the sun may be peeking through and warming her up, as we hear Mama's gentle voice gliding against the icy walls, could make for a nice, chill, soothing scene after the action-packed insanity we just went through. Goldi takes a deep breath as Mama tells her to just follow her instructions. She's gonna get her out of this. Just don't panic and trust her. From that moment on, she gently guides Goldi through the maze, telling her to turn, stop, and go at all the right moments to avoid any sharp icicles, pit traps, or dead ends that may stand in her way. Eventually, Goldi makes it out of the maze, and just as quickly as it froze over, the river melts. Papa and Baby are set free, and they all gather around Goldi to warm her up after that icy escapade. And as soon as her eyesight returns, the first thing she sees is her family all gathered around her, happy to see that she's okay. With the ice all gone, the quartet ford the river Oregon Trail style and trek onwards to the last stop. Once again, the themes in play here are meant to show Goldi the caveats of her ill-informed mindset, But in this case, instead of the words of the story slowly sucking out her life, it's the images from the story literally making her blind. It's meant to show that if she continues to focus only on this polished, perfect picture of a real family, she's going to remain completely blind to the truth that's right in front of her face. She already has a family that loves her and cares for her no matter what. And only when she realizes this can she finally open her eyes and see what's been there all along. And of course we have Mama displaying another signature quality of a true family. A family teaches and guides. While she did do a little panicking of her own, she was able to quickly calm down the situation and approach things logically by coming up with a plan and guiding her daughter through a dangerous situation. And in the end, despite the chilling turn of events, everyone came out alive and okay. Which brings us to the final stop on our journey, and the only one we actually saw in the movie, Nostalgia Pines. If you remember the original scene, it's mostly the same thing here. Goldi reads the quote from the map about realizing what's right in front of you, the bears get all comfy in their perfect replica cabin, Goldi gets apprehensive about trusting the star, probably even more so now because in this AU it had already tricked the family twice, but then her mood immediately shifts when she comes across something nostalgic herself. A collection of fairy tales. Mama reminds Goldi about how she used to love that book when she was a kid and would look at it for hours. We even get a flashback of baby Goldi looking in the bear's cabin for the perfect place to rest her little head. And that's where the bears first found her and took her in as their own. That was when their lives became just right. As Papa naps in his chair and Baby passes out with this honey, Mama and Goldi decide to take a rest together on Goldi's favorite bed, just like they would when she would have nightmares. She brings the book with her, and as they lay there together, she reads through it, all the words and pictures coming back to her as if she's remembered it all her life. But then she starts to make some startling connections to the events of the day. Those words on the mountaintop, those images during the snowstorm, they all came from right here. They came from this book. But all throughout the journey, all they've done is hurt her. Isolating her, disabling her, practically killing her. There was nothing fulfilling there, nothing satisfactory, nothing even remotely positive that came from the text and images of this story. Even if she didn't remember it at first, this was the story that shaped her deep-seated image of what a proper family is. And in the end, the elements from it caused her nothing but suffering. And yet when danger struck and all hope was lost, who was always there for her? The bears. From the moment they took her in as a child, to the insane dangerous escapades of the crime world, to the almost life-ending challenges today, the bears have proven time and time again that they have all the traits of a real loving family. They protect and defend, they teach and guide, and above all, they nurture and provide. Goldi smiles as it finally clicks for her that this really is the family she's sought after her entire life. She's been focusing so much on chasing the polished, picturesque fairy tale definition of what a proper family is when the real thing has been right in front of her the entire time. She finally lets her guard down and drifts off into a blissful sleep, cuddled in Mama's arms like a bear's own personal teddy bear. This truly is where she's meant to be. Not face deep in a work of fantasy, but with a group of bears that treat her like gold. Not too hot, not too cold, but just right. The end. These are the words I desperately wish I could type. Oh, I would give anything to say that the story ends right here. But I know how much you guys love your darkness and tragedy, so I've got a bad ending as well. You don't have to see it. You can click off right now. Take a walk on a sunny day. Have an ice cream. Just be happy if you want. Alright, you asked for it. In this version, instead of Goldi accepting the truth and surrendering to it, she still remains headstrong in her belief that the star is just trying to manipulate them so they don't go for the wish, even after sifting through the fairy tale book and making all the connections. She's like, nope, I'm still not falling for your games, I'm not gonna trust anything you say, especially after what you just did. Which, to be honest, is pretty fair. She decides to let the bear sleep, but she remains awake, not trusting anything the star is trying to do and remaining vigilant at all times in case it tries to pull a fast one on them. Eventually she wakes the family up to get them all moving, they hike over to the star at long last, step down onto its spectacular sparkling surface, and move to the center of it. Goldi gives the bears one last big hug, and thanks them for everything they've done. The family thinks she's talking about everything they did during the trip, But no, she's talking about everything they've done for her whole life. A thank you and goodbye, basically. She opens up the map one last time and reads the iconic line. Starlight, star bright, first star I see tonight. I wish I may, I wish I might, have this wish I wish tonight. She looks back at the bears with their smiling supportive faces. A bit of uncertainty washes over her, but she goes back to what she was doing. I wish for a real family. The bears immediately cry out in confusion and shock, but before they can even speak a full sentence, whoosh! Goldi gets bathed in a dazzling beam of starlight that lifts her right off the ground. It becomes so bright that it's almost impossible for her to see anything, and then before she can even process what's going on, she wakes up. She can feel her head pounding and her ears ringing as she stares up at the smiling face of a familiar-looking man. The same father from her favorite storybook is sitting there right in front of her.
Oh, sweetheart, you're finally awake. That was some fall you had. You've been out for a while now. But I always had a feeling that our strong girl would pull through. The doctor says it's best if you remain in bed for a while before you're up and about again. In the meantime, your mother's preparing dinner right now. I'll have her bring some to you.
As he gets up to leave, she looks around the room. Every trinket, every knickknack, every feature is just as it was described in the book. The perfect home with the perfect family had actually become real. Her wish had come true. Goldi spends the next few days and nights with this new family of hers. Her mother always bringing her treats and meals, and the father entertaining her with all kinds of exciting little stories. Everything seems perfect for a while. But the longer Goldi stays with them, the more she starts to miss certain things. She misses the way that her and Baby would always get into insult fights at the drop of a hat. She misses Papa's loud off-key singing and aggressive piano playing. She misses Mama's simple but yummy cooking, and the sticky feeling of the dining room table from all the honey she'd use. She even misses the kind of scratchy, rough texture of the grass-woven blankets on her bed. All the little quirks and oddities that she never realized had become such a big part of her life. The things she associates with normalcy, with happy memories, with home. Even though this is exactly what she wished for, nothing feels right at all. The parents notice that Goldi is getting stressed out, and they recommend that maybe it's time for her to get some fresh air. Maybe they could walk through the nearby park, which they always love to do. But when Goldi steps out of the family's home for the first time, she sees that her wish has not only created her new family and their new home, but the entire kingdom from her story as well, complete with all the places and amenities mentioned in it, like the family's favorite park. But that's not all. The wish also created other kingdoms as well, like the kingdoms the father went to war with as described in chapter 3, or the country the mother immigrated from as described in chapter 5. Because Goldi's image of what a real family is was mostly limited to that book, and because her wish was so vague, the star basically took the text of the book as reference and did everything it could to make her wish feel as real as possible, including making elements of the lore and character backstories real as well, leading to the surrounding landscape being morphed into a perfect replica of the world described in the book. Her entire fairy tale has become reality. Obviously, Goldi has a bit of a panic attack over this. Did she just fabricate an entirely different world? Or is this the world she already knew with all the assets of her fantasy slapped on top of it? If it's the latter, what happened to the creatures that used to be there? Were they changed into new creatures? Did they disappear entirely? Were they just driven off and forced to live somewhere else? Did she just unintentionally kill a bunch of people with her vaguely worded desires? What exactly did her wish do? Well, instead of just standing there and questioning it, she decides to go and find out for herself. She asks her family to go and fetch her some medicine for her head while she stays in bed, and as soon as the two of them leave, she snags some supplies from their house, leaves a note saying that she's going away forever, and sets off on an adventure to explore this world, see exactly what she's done, and hopefully get her real family back. Days go by as she treks along, recognizing all the places and characters described in her story. wondering if those were real-life people once that were morphed into puppets to play a part in her perfect wishful world, and even shedding a tear at such an idea. She asks around to see if anyone has seen the three bears, to no avail. She visits and crosses out locations on a map she took from her fake father, never finding hind or tail of anyone or anything she remembers being there prior to the wish. But she stays determined. She even quotes her original wish on the back of her map to keep herself motivated. But instead of "I wish for a real family," she writes "I wish for my real family." Eventually, after a massive trek of multiple kingdoms and getting constant reminders of the short-sighted things she did, Goldi comes across an area of land that doesn't match anything in the book. If anything, it looks like a crowded slum, the equivalent of the swamp in Shrek 1 when all the fairy tale creatures were kicked off their land. She sees tents full of starving and sick families, trying their best to get by with what they have. And who's at the center of it all? Papa, Mama, and Baby Bear serving free porridge to fellow homeless creatures in front of a rustic but still well-constructed little building that they're clearly still adding more onto. A wooden sign hangs above the door, reading, "The Hibernate Inn." Goldi is so relieved to see that the bears are still alive and well, now knowing for sure that all her wish did was morph the existing land she once knew. But obviously they're not exactly thrilled to see her again, considering she lied to them, abandoned them, and, forced thousands of people out of their homes with her wish fulfillment fantasy. The bears tell her that when the land was transformed into her storybook territory, the entire ruling structure changed. Nobody owned their land or their homes anymore. It's now owned by the newly formed kingdoms, and everyone was forced into exile. But luckily, the bears grouped up with some of the refugees, found a spot of land that was owned by no one, and basically worked together with them to build a little makeshift society so they can all feed and provide for themselves. It's a little bit lacking at the moment, but once they finish the inn and have a place for everyone to rest warmly and eat plentifully, they'll get to work on more expansion. Goldi gets down on her knees and says that there's no way she can make up for everything she's done. And she's right, there is no way she can make up for it. But she does at least want to try. She immediately grabs a spoon and a bowl and starts serving porridge to the waiting, hungry mouths of the refugees. The bears don't really thank her or acknowledge it, but they do let her do it. If she wants to help, that's her call, no fur off their noses. Day by day, she starts to integrate herself into society better, not only carrying her own weight, but the weight of others as well. She even puts some of the skills that the bears once taught her to good use. Like maybe Papa taught her how to forage for food and she uses that to gather rations in the woods. Maybe Mama taught her how to weave grass clippings into cloth, then she uses that to make blankets and tents and clothes for everyone. Eventually, once the inn is complete, after seeing all the effort that Goldi is putting in to try and make up for a huge mistake, the three bears agree that the very least they can do is let her have a bed in the inn instead of just sleeping in a tent outside. They even make it just the way she likes it, though they don't tell her this. They clearly haven't forgiven her fully yet, but what she's doing is a good start. Goldi isn't exactly sure what's gonna happen next. Is this new society gonna thrive or fall under? Are her parents gonna come looking for her, and will they ever find her? Will another wishing star touch down one day so she can maybe undo everything she did? Whatever ends up happening, all she knows is that she's gonna work night and day to make up for her horrible wish and ensure that the lives of everyone around her are as just right as possible. So yeah, in the end we got a sappy, wholesome ending and a really bittersweet ending for Goldi. I'll admit I might have gotten a little carried away with my almost blank slate for this one, but what can I say? This cute crime quartet really gets my feels and my imagination going. But as always, let's hear what you guys think. How do you imagine things would play out if Goldi and the bear snagged the map? And what did you think of my little tale? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I hope to see you all real soon.